be here. I'm honored, I'm humbled that I was asked to moderate this conversation amongst these three beautiful, spectacular, talented humans up here. Satchel, we'll get into your exhibition, but before, I want to sort of lay the groundwork for the conversation by reading the exhibition text, if that's okay. Where we find ourselves is a multidisciplinary investigation into memory, place, and Black perception across generations that centers the historic neighborhood of Freedmen's Town in Houston. Through photography, film, architectural modeling, and installation, artist Satchel Lee brings a forensic intimacy to the project, placing the South, and specifically Freedmen's Town, under a microscope. Lee reveals the physical remnants of a once self-sustaining Black community founded by formerly enslaved people, and the enduring brilliance embedded in its spatial and spiritual architecture. The exhibition navigates the tension between monument and ruin, between presence and erasure. By constructing and photographing miniature models of historically significant Freedmen Town structures and subsequently printing the images at large scale, Lee shifts perception, shrinking the past to examine it closely, then magnifying it to command reverence. These gestures are not simply aesthetic. They serve as acts of reclamation, recentering Black stories in spaces that urban renewal and gentrification have long obscured. The models operate as vessels for multi-generational memory, each one a stand-in for questions about ownership, belonging, and cultural survival. Through lyrical documentary films, longtime Freedmen Towns residents, including Sharonda Johnson, who I think is in the building, shout out Sharonda, Bobby Johnson, Pastor Samuel Smith, and Dr. Sally Wickers share lived experiences of the neighborhood. Their testimonies serve as oral counterpoints to Lee's visual archive, grounding the work in Black reality and anchoring it across temporal spans. Through their artist stories, Lee underscores how migration, lineage, and place intersect, and how observing and recording becomes a form of care. Installed within a restored row house in Freedmen's Town, the exhibition culminates in an immersive space that mirrors both domestic familiarity and sacred ritual, inviting visitors to perceive Freedmen Town's history and present anew. Where we find ourselves is co-organized by Houston Freedmen's Town's Conservancy and Contemporary Arts Museum Houston, otherwise known as CAM, as a part of the Rebirth in Action project. The exhibition is curated by Mitch Stevenson, who serves as project manager for partnerships. From there, I want to sort of enter into a reflection that I wrote, again, to sort of ground and center the conversation. I've been able to walk through the exhibition twice now, and so that my allergy-medicated brain does not start this conversation in a dazed and confused space, I thought it would be just, if it's okay with y'all, just read this reflection. So again, welcome, everyone. We gather here in a space that asks us to slow down, to notice, and to remember. Where we find ourselves is not simply an exhibition. It's an act of looking closely, of holding memory and history with both tenderness and rigor. Satchel's work in conversation with Amarie and Mo's activations invites us to Freedmen's Town, a neighborhood built from the resilience and vision of formerly enslaved people, and asks us to witness what remains, what has been lost, and what continues to endure. The exhibition constantly shifts our perception, reminding us that history is both fragile and monumental, both deeply personal and collectively held. This project does not treat memory as a static. It treats it as alive. The voices of long-time residents, the reconstructed spaces, the gestures of scale and care, all reminds us that memory is an act of survival and that telling stories is a form of reclamation. Our conversation today is meant to reflect the same balance we'll see in this work: reverence and inquiry, presence and reflection, perception, and awareness. We'll explore together how art can hold space for community, how memory can resist erasure, and how Freedmen Town's legacy continues to shape the present. As we begin, I invite us to listen deeply, not only to the words that are spoken, but to the silences, to the tensions, to the echoes that linger. This is a space for dialogue. This is a space for honoring what has been. This is a space for imagining what can be. With that, I would like to intro our three amazing, thank you. I want to introduce our three amazing panelists today, starting with Ms. Satchel Lee. Satchel Lee is a visual artist and filmmaker whose work explores memory, legacy, and Black interior life through photography, film, and installation. She reinterprets personal and collective histories through the architecture of memory, using built spaces to reveal deeper layers of identity and heritage. Lee had a MFA from the School of Art Institute of Chicago, a BFA from NYU School of the Arts. Lee has exhibited her work both domestically and internationally and collaborated with Washington Post magazine, Vogue Italia, and the New York Times. Where We Find Ourselves marks the artist's first solo exhibition. Let me say that one more time. This is Lee's first solo exhibition, and she decided to host it right here in Houston, Texas. So let's give her another round of applause, please. Thank you for being here. Thank you for this work. Mo. Hi, Mo. Mo Nikole is a Houston-based Black lesbian sonic curator and archivist dedicated to amplifying Black voices, stories, and legacies. Through her intentional, undiluted focus, Mo creates spaces where Blackness is remembered, celebrated, and preserved through Black Woman Black Woman Music, a living archive dedicated to listening to the voices of Black women in music, and Black People Church, a fellowship space honoring the Southern Black aesthetic through sound and community programming. So if everyone could help me welcome Mo to the conversation. Amarie. Hi, girl. Amarie Gipson is a Houston-born writer, editor, and cultural worker. She is the founder and director of this beautiful space that we sit in right here, the Reading Room, an independent reference library dedicated to increasing access to Black art through literature and community engagement. The Reading Room is a cultural and literary hub that hosts curated events, including artist talks, film screenings, and interactive workshops, all designed to foster a deeper connection to the library's growing collection of nearly 800 books. Her writing has been independently published in Arts.Black, Art Forum, Arts News, Essence, Oxford American, and many others. She previously held editor positions at Houstonia and Atlanta-based arts criticism publication Burnaway. In 2024, she was awarded the AICA USA's Irving Sandler Award for New Voices in Art Criticism. Prior to starting the Reading Room, she held curatorial positions at various art institutions, including the Studio Museum in Harlem, the Art Institute of Chicago, and the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. If everyone could help me give a warm welcome to Amarie Gipson. Thank you for being here. All right, I've done enough talking. I'm ready to shift the conversation. And of course, Satchel, I would love to start with you. If you could kick us off by sharing, one, what inspired this exploration around memory, place, and Black perception? And two, what inspired you to center this story in the Southern context, here in Houston, and specifically in Freedmen's Town?
Hello. Is this on?
Yep.
It is, right?
Check, check, check.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna just switch with you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, Taylor, for moderating this. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for coming to listen. I think, for me, the first question that I want to answer, I think, to kind of set this in a Southern atmosphere, when I've been talking about the show, I've been saying a lot, that I'm from New York. I'm very much a New Yorker. Yes, New York in the house. But I have very strong Southern roots. My mother's family is from Virginia. My dad's families are from Alabama and Georgia. But there was the Great Migration and everybody left. And so I have family in the South, but I don't go home to the South in the summer, right? Like that tradition was lost. And so I think for me, I was really kind of looking for that touchstone to come back and really kind of get in touch with my Southern roots. I think as African Americans, like this is it, right? So even though my family is not from Texas, when I first heard about Freedmen's Town, that felt like a place for me to go back to. No, it's all good. It felt like a place for me to go back to. It felt like this place where I could have my own pilgrimage. And so as I started to learn more about the history, even though this wasn't my story, it really felt like it was my story. And that I could and I think we were talking about this yesterday too, right? But it's been interesting to have this kind of like call, to be here. Like I really do feel like that's what happened because like I said, I'm up there and it just kind of happened that this came about. And so I've spent a bit of time in Houston getting to know the city, getting to know Freedmen's Town. And it all felt really natural and like it was supposed to happen. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you, because I think with you choosing to center Houston, to center Freedmen Town, it continues to bring awareness to a story that the community deserves to have these memories, these stories uplifted, not only from a place of this being a significant monument, but of the ongoing battlefield that continues to exist there. So thank you.
100%. And I'll just say too, right, like, Freedmen's Town is a very special place because there's so many different communities in the United States, African American communities that have come up and were prosperous and then just completely decimated. And we can read about them in books, and maybe if you walk, you'll see a plaque, maybe, but there really isn't, we don't honor these places. Freedmen's Town is still here, right? Mm-hmm. It's still here. This is a place where people still live. There are, so, even as I've talked to people, even people in Houston didn't even realize that they had this gem in their city. So it's just really been an honor for me to be able to really kind of like get connected with the community and be able to shine a light on this really amazing place.
Yeah. Now, you decided to invite these two incredible creatives and storytellers to add to this dialogue happening throughout the exhibition. What was it about Mo and Amarie's practices that made you say, like, yeah, I need that to be a part of this moment, to be a part of this story?
Number one, they're both brilliant. So that was like, yeah, definitely, like and the other part of it too is like, as much as I've felt very welcome here in Houston, like I'm an outsider, right? And like, I really needed you guys to ground this. Like, this is, your home. Like, I'm happy to do what I can, but it just really felt to me like I really needed your voices, the community, you have your roots here. It really felt important. And that's even outside of your personal practices, right? But and then I ramble, sorry. But and then thinking about the work that you do, like with the music, when we sat down and talked about how we could incorporate that into the space, thinking about making a work that felt really well-rounded, right? Like if you go see the show, if you haven't seen it, go see it. But there's one of the houses has kind of been transformed into a spiritual, sacred kind of pilgrimage place. And when I was thinking about that, I was like, there's a sound here, right? And what does that sound like? How do we make that work so that it reflects the community, that it feels authentic? We were talking about your field recordings and looking through archives, sonic archives. And when we were thinking about the works, because there's also a reading room, right? As we have this home collecting these books that are not just, literature, not just memoirs, but books about architecture, books about Black art, to really center the space in a way that makes it feel grounded and also kind of touches all senses. Like, I really wanted it to be a space where you could go in and really feel the energy shift. And I think I'm really excited for that to happen, because I think it's just the best thing for me when you walk into a room and you can tell that the air is different. And I just knew that the both of you were really going to help me shift that air.
I want to talk to Mo and Amarie more directly about their role in this collaboration. Mo, the soundscape that you created as a part of this project is eerily sacred. Can you talk about your inspiration behind, your work as a part of this collaboration?
Yeah, so I think this, first of all, it's an honor to be here sitting with all three of y'all. Like, I'm kind of fangirling a little bit. I'm trying to play it cool, but yeah, just grateful for that. But I think even being invited into this conversation and to this body of work, can y'all hear me okay? Okay, because the sound person in me is like, can y'all hear me? Okay. But I have learned that preservation is not just about storage. Like, it's not just about finding a thing and like putting it in a box or behind a glass wall and like being speculative, like spectating. And so every time I've gone into Freedmen's Town, it feels like I'm coming in somebody's house. Like, I have to say, like, hey, y'all, how y'all doing? Like, just like the ancestral energy is so alive in the way that it just kind of sticks in my pores even after the fact. I think as I approach this project and also just upcoming activations, for me, it's how can I listen deeper? It's not so much what am I able to bring to this project, but like, what am I listening for? Like, there's not an intense need to like reinvent the wheel, because the spirits, the ancestors, the prayers, the blood, the joy, the grief, all of that is already like vibrating very high in Freedmen's Town itself. So it's like, okay, how can I be still and listen for ways to approach preservation in a more caretaking way? I think Satchel, just from what I saw yesterday, and I need to go back and really sit with the work, but so far just being in conversation with her and Amarie, Satchel I feel like I walk away with the question, how to see and remember something differently. I think Amarie teaches me or asks me how to read and reference differently. And my goal is to encourage people or ask people to hear and to listen differently. And the three of those elements can reshape the way that we show up, the way that we arrive, and ultimately the way that we protect, preserve, and carry this work forward. Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Amarie, I know there was a great deal of intentionality and care that you put into the curation of the books on display as a part of this project. Could you talk and speak to a little bit of your process and your inspiration as a part of this collaboration?
I also want to just echo how grateful I am to share space with the three of y'all. And that I feel like I learned today that this was your first solo exhibition. And you chose Houston. There's so much pride there's so much pride and there's so much gratitude in that. Thank you for seeing our city. Thank you for seeing Freedmanstown. I'm not from Freedmanstown, but I feel connected to the neighborhood. Every Black Houstonian, every Black Texan is connected to Freedmanstown in some way. And I'm so grateful for that. I think a lot about record keeping. I think about writing as a mode of record keeping, libraries as spaces where record keeping kind of happens actively. And I was really moved by the way that pride and grief coexist in the show and in most conversations about Freedmanstown. I'm also moved by, and Taylor, you mentioned this earlier, tenderness, the depth of the care, the precision through which you looked at the historic sites in the city. And so bringing text on architecture felt important. There are a number of Black women voices, artistic and literary voices that you're in conversation with. And so having Christina Sharp present, having Bell Hooks present, Toni Morrison present in the room, a number of people who are thinking about place and the geography of the heart, right, which is something Bell Hooks is named. Every aspect of the show, I think you get a little bit of everything when you go in. One house, how could I describe it? I'm still chewing on it because I got to see it in full yesterday. I think I went twice, Thursday and Friday, or just Friday. But walking into the third house where the books are, where the steps are, where as soon as you come in, your senses are activated. You can feel the ancestral presence in there. The seats that you left for the ancestors to be present, the acknowledgement that you have to give when you walk in was so incredibly resonant. And I think some of the texts are on spirituality, some of them are on film. It runs the gamut. That's what moved me, was your level of care. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I mean, I said this yesterday. I'm just repeating myself this entire time, but it's like I felt so like welcomed and really, really, like I was saying to you earlier, I'm like, I don't want to go home. Like, this is so nice. Yeah, it just feels so good to like have this conversation and to have the work and to build space. Like, it just feels really, and like you were saying about caretaking, right? I think what's interesting, and this is something that I'm thinking about the work, like I think the caretaking and like the work of like preserving is also like a caretaking of self. And it feels really good, you know? And I think also something that I'm thinking about with the work is like how this like time continuum is like everything's happening at once, right? So like the caretaking of like this history is a caretaking of self, is a caretaking of the future. Like it's all the same. And so it just feels really wonderful. And like you were saying, right, this pride and grief, you know, next to each other is also happening at the same time. But that's just life, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Word to Frankie Beverly.
Staying in this pocket, right, and thinking about, specifically about preservation, I want us to reflect on what's required of us collectively and individually when the responsibility of preservation is not just abstract, but urgent and immediate. You know, Freedmanstown is not simply a story of the past. It's the largest post-Civil War settlement of its kind in the world. It's home to 8 UNESCO designated sites, and yet there are still many fights that continue, many of the battles reflective of, you know, what the community was facing 50 years ago. And so, you know, your works are very powerful interventions, whether through visual art, sound, oral history, written history, community practice, how can these stories and creative gestures translate into structural shifts in policy, resources, or community engagement?
Oh, okay. Oh, I was like, it was on cue too. Um, I first want to say that I think erasure is really patient. Like, and what I mean is that we've seen like systematically and culturally that like erasure is not neutral. Like there are certain groups of people where their culture is celebrated, and then there are certain groups of people, in this case, talking about Freemanstown, where the information, the access, the resource, the legacy, the lineage is intended to be buried. But for me, what I love about Freemanstown is just it refuses to be forgotten. Like when you go into the space, it's like, here's why you need to remember us, and this is how. Like it's a living and breathing archive. It's a living and breathing space. Like it's living grounds. And yeah, I think as time passes and maybe what they think is demolition happening and that idea that maybe it is being erased, I think with time, it just deepens the struggle. But our minds are not wandering. Like through preservation work, we're able to remember, revere, and reimagine. And I think the community call to action is just to keep remembering. Like how can we take something that is static and make it an actant? And I think situations just like this, having bodies of work coming together, talking about it, witnessing, putting names to the images, to the sounds, to the subtext, like talking it out, helps us to inform our futures, because the past is not behind us. The past is alive in us, and it's instructing us how to move forward in the present, how to move from the present into the future, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I think the very, very first step is an individual scale. I get frustrated by the fact that it takes people that are not from our city to come and put a lens on our city. Love you down, Satchel, you did your thing. But it's important for us to also care. Somebody shouldn't have to come and tell you to care. You have to care because it is yours. You know what I mean? And if you don't care, it'll be easy for it to get erased, to be X'd out of the budget. If you're not advocating for it on a day-to-day basis, you know what I mean? Or remembering, doing that active preservation work from an individual level, then it just falls into the ether. It leaves. It becomes too nebulous. It becomes an abstraction. You know what I mean? Freemanstown is not an abstraction. It's a real place. Thank you for naming that. Thank you for seeing that. I don't think it should take other people to tell us to care about our own stuff. We have to. Otherwise, we won't have anything. It will be too late by the time we do. It's gone. That's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think for me, you know, because as I said, right, this is a very particular, specific story, but this is an American story, right? And so, on a larger scale, I mean, my plan, I hope I get to show this all over the country. Yeah, I really want to show it all over, because again, and in the way that I even came in, right, like it's a specific, but it's personal. And I think to your point, right, when you kind of get in on that level, you are encouraged maybe to approach the situation with a certain level of, I don't know, I mean, urgency, I think, right? Mo, as you said, right, like, you know, erasure is patient, right? So you kind of have to be urgent and have a sense of like, oh, this is a thing that like if we don't do anything, we're not going to have it. So, yeah, I can't speak to anything about policies, but I think by just showing the work, and just really giving people a chance and saying like, hey, just this is a place. These are people, and there's something. Just having that knowledge of it, because I don't know if I said this before. I probably did, right? But like, I met many people in Houston who didn't even know that Freedmen's Town was called Freedmen's Town. In the film, there's a woman named Bobby Johnson. She's 29. She grew up in Freedmen's Town. She said she didn't even realize it was called Freedmen's Town until she was 23, and she had spent her entire life there. And that's a very deliberate move, right? Freedmen's Town, think about that name, right? That is a very different connotation than Fourth Ward. And that's a deliberate thing, because if you don't, as Sharonda says in the film, right? Like, if you don't know what is part of your inheritance, it completely shifts the way, maybe, that you move through the world. And so that naming aspect is really, really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I wanted to just add that the point that Sharonda expressed was, who would I be? Who would I have been if I had known this history? What choices would I have made? What would it mean for all of us to know and embrace that and embody that on a day-to-day basis? And I think the answer to that question is the reason why we see such rampant, ongoing, current erasure, deliberate defunding. It's a headline every other day. There's something. This place lost funding. This person got fired. 300,000 black women doing the work without jobs now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's supposed to grate down on your soul.
Yeah.
It's supposed to start to tear you up so that you become, desensitized? It neutralizes that urgency. And the point that you made about an American story, this is an American story. And I feel like Houston is such an important city to American history and present. We're at the bottom of the map. We can see everything that's going on. We look up and out at everybody. We have the best perspective right here. I'm from here, so of course, I'ma always say that. But I think it's really important to remember that. I consider Houston a coastal city. We're not far from the water. Juneteenth is right here, arm's reach. And that was the shot that rang across the whole globe in terms of our freedom struggle. So it's a really unique positionality, but it also is a collective history. Yeah. It's an American story.
Yeah. Let's sit in this pocket. How do we balance honoring the brilliance of the past with building pathways for future generations, to your point, Amarie, to inherit more than erasure? I'm sorry. I'm not, but
the phrase inherit erasure is like, it just upset me physically, because that unfortunately is where we're headed. If we lose the capacity to think for ourselves, right? We're not going to be able to remember. We won't be able to remember. We're not using it. It's not clicking up here. We're losing it. Yeah. I don't know how. I just wanted to name that really like unsettled me. Inherit and erasure. Mo?
Yes. Okay. So, I just think we can't live in silence. I think we just have to keep circulating the conversations. And also not allowing preservation to just survive on sentiment alone. Like, just to say that we are preserving. Like, how, so not like, what we do next? Like, how do we lay claim to it? And going back to the word inheritance, because that stuck out to me, when you inherit something, you then have the responsibility to take care of it. And in theory and in practice, caregiving is not glamorous. It's messy. It's repetitive. And it often happens in a very unseen way. And it requires longevity. You can't really have a lot of burnout. Man, and then you have the responsibility to feed it, to defend it, to water it, to just continuing to take care. And I think I actually asked myself this question in my own work, because when I started just archival preservation work, I thought just like talking about the thing was enough. Like showing a video, making a reel, saying I know this thing, but not really knowing how to take the tool and use it in a way that is withstanding. And that's why I just continue to go back to listening, and not listening in a polite way, but listening in a way that unsettles you, to where it changes how you walk, it changes how you talk, it changes how you show up, because you're so unsettled by what you've just received, like on a molecular level. And I think naturally that type of impact, it's hard to not carry it forward. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I also want to say, like, the act of the erasure, like, is not ours to inherit. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not mine. That's somebody else's stuff. That really has nothing to do with me, honestly. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many other things that I can inherit. Like, that is deliberate and aggressive, but that's not mine. And so I think the thing is to, as Mo was saying, like, dive in and listen deeply to the things that are ours, and really use those to, like, propel us forward. Because I just love Black people. and like, I don't know, I think we're the best, and I feel like there's just so much. I feel so, like, even being in this space, you know what I mean? Just, like, look at all of the, like, beautiful books, you know what I mean? Like, what a blessing, you know what I mean? Like, I really feel walking into a space like this, like, looking at all of these things, like, listening to, like, sound archives, like, what a real blessing, all of this history. Like, it is so incredible and really so empowering in a way that, like, okay, I love Beyonce, but I just, like, and I could talk about her forever, but, like, I don't know, anyway, we don't have to do that, but sometimes I just listen to this music that a lot of people may not like or whatever, but I'm just like, this is this is like a spell. This is like a blessing. That's like, get out there and, like, do what you're, like, do you know how many people have come before you to put you right here? And look what you're doing. And get out there and do it. I'm like, whoa, like, that's incredible. So I don't know. Anyway, long tangent. The erasure is not mine. I'm not even looking at that.
So maybe leaning into the do it part, right? Like, if there was one urgent action that you would like this audience to carry forward with them from today's conversation, whether that's artists, advocates, citizens, what would that be?
Start documenting things. Start cataloging the things that are in your home that are special to you, that have sentimental value. Utilize the public resources that are there that allow you to research your family history, pinpoint, make those maps yourself, scan the things that you have, right? We're in an ecological crisis, we're in a financial crisis, we're in a political crisis, and people are working overtime and have been working overtime since we got here to keep us from the history that would make us proud. And still we find a way to still be proud, which is wonderful, and it's a testament to who we are. But I think if folks I'm moved by the fact that people are working overtime to erase something. That means it must be important to hold on to. You want to keep it from me that bad. It makes you that upset. You feel that threatened. Oh, I'm moved. I'm energized. I'm committed. I'm devoted. I'm devoted to the work. Everybody deserves that reminder. You know what I mean? We deserve to live in that power because we'll never be free if we're not. So cataloging things, photographing things, scanning things. The cloud is one thing, but also having physical records. If it's in your house, it's important. What would you want to keep? What's your time? What's in your time capsule? If you gave those papers to the library after you passed away, what would the people in the future learn about you? I think those are all questions that we have to ask ourselves because every single one of us is a library.
Anyone else? Urgent call.
Man, Amarie, you really like summed it up. I mean, we talked about this last night at dinner. We was going hard talking about it like we were. Anyway, yes. I think urgent call to action, or just for myself that I've been trying to challenge, is to turn projects into practices. With all of these different rituals to remember, right? Because these are different type of rituals that we can adapt to try to remember. Is like, how can I take it out of theory and put it into practice? How can I embody this? How can I demonstrate this? How can I share it? And how can I talk about what this means to me, or like how this impacted me, how this shaped me? I think about just like my upbringing with sound. All the sounds that I would hear in the house helped me to make sense of the world. Arguing, you know, my daddy used to have his little saying. He'd be like, "What's all that crying and belly aching? You know, you nagging in the house." Like, I can hear my grandmother like cutting up okra. I can hear my grandpa's radio. You know, he's seasoning his meat and putting it in a Ziploc bag because he gonna let it sit overnight. You know, so it can really marinate. Just like all of those sounds and even the silences, it matters. And I think sometimes we do get so caught up in the rapture, or just like caught up in like just not listening. Because if we just sit still and be still and listen, it's already ours. Like, it literally is our inheritance. Us coming together and fellowshipping like this is a part of our inheritance. And we're putting it into practice. So we're already doing the thing that we're talking about. What could we be doing? So just want to affirm that. And also I just want to say, Amarie, this reading room is amazing because you've created access. Like, you have access, and it's so difficult. You have to go through loops and bounds, create like fake accounts with like emails to get free subscription, you know, to try to find information. Like, information is just so hard to find. So be able to take artifacts and not just view them, but to hold them, to smell them, and to create a dialogue that I feel like only we understand. It's like when you see another black person in the room and it's like the head nod, you know, like we see each other. And so, yeah, putting that project into practice.
Yeah, I think both of you spoke beautifully about it. I think I just echo both of that. I mean, Amarie, what you said about just documenting everything, I think that's a really interesting thing that I don't know that I've necessarily thought about. I think we're in a weird space in this like digital age where there is a lot of documentation, but it's so performative. And so maybe that has kind of thrown me off of like documenting, because I'm like, I don't want to like, you know, dance for the camera. But and then thinking about the silences, like so many, just like documenting like the internal, like the small things, right? That maybe, and even, you know, you document things that don't make much sense now, but who knows, right? You know, maybe they'll be the missing piece. So I think that really kind of stuck with me. But I think to your point, right, like everybody being a library, like we all have so much to offer, and maybe sometimes in this particular digital space, it could feel like there's so much information and noise out there. So I think the practice of like an internal kind of just collecting, right? Because as you said, you know, they're actively trying to take things away from us. So just kind of building your own library and holding that in reverence, because it's important. So thank you for that.
Let's
I
give it
love
up
that
one more
idea
time
of
for our
looking at
amazing
yourself.
panelists and artists. Satchel, thank you. Amarie, thank you. Mo, thank you. Everyone here today, thank you. Thank you for coming out to support, to listen, to learn. I hope you took something from this conversation. I hope you go and see the exhibition over at Freedmen's Town.